What is up, gang? It is I, Carlton Flowers, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And this afternoon, we needed to get a quick follow-up from yesterday's video. I am super busy, but I had to get this video update in to talk about what has just transpired and discuss the last video where we were talking about the 60% probability scenario that I laid out that I really didn't want to see happen, but had to report about it. And sure enough, it played out exactly as the probability was pointing to. So we are going to dig in and look at the 4 hour, the 1 day, and the 1 hour and discuss what the next move could be. And as usual, this absolutely is not financial advice, but I will give my insight and opinion about the probabilities of where we could go from this point. So we are sitting at a nice right price of 23,731 and counting, looking at the 4 hour chart with a red upside down hammer doji that is being printed right at the purple dashed line. So before we break down this chart, let's jump back to the comments from the previous video. I want to discuss a few comments. Let's just jump back here and look at some of the comments that we had. Hang on a second. Let me get rid of my handsome face so we can see the comments. And here, whoops, I turned it back on. All right, so first of all, we had Double Quill that said, thanks for explaining the technicals in a way that I can understand it. Good balance between the terminology, which typically makes me balk at this, and explanations. I had been picking up and understanding a lot more of the terms since I started watching your channel. Thank you very much for that comment, Double Quill. I do appreciate that, and it reinforces my my viewpoint that we really should explain things in simple terms and try to stay away from the mumbo jumbo, overly technical talk. I kind of look at these charts from a pictorial stance, dating back from my experience in trading penny stocks way back in 1999 during the dot-com bubble bursting days. And I kind of rather prefer looking at the chart and explaining in simple terms instead of giving the mumbo jumbo extra technical terminology that most people like to jabber on about on YouTube, and make it kind of simple and plain in a way that everybody can understand it. So that gives me encouragement to continue on in explaining things in simple terms where we can all understand. Next, we had Jai Dillon, who said, excellent TA Carlton. Always appreciate getting your take on what's happening in the BTC charts with the super chat of $10. And thank you so much, Jai. That is my buddy, my neighbor, lives right across the street. And I just came back and said, well, I will continue to put out the work. He's investing in my research, and so I am going to earn that. And that's why I posted this video, besides the fact that it's really important that we look at these developments today. But thank you for investing in me and helping to support the channel. And that encourages me to take time out of my busy day to keep the updates coming. So thank you, Jai. We also had Carl that said, thanks so much, big boss. You managed to put down the app just long enough to make this great video. And the last few days have been super busy. I've been busy working in the body shop and doing my engineering consulting work, but I had to get that video up yesterday, and he gave a super chat donation of $10. Thank you very much. And again, I will work hard for it and provide the value. And that's my way of saying thanks for supporting the channel, and I will keep the information coming. So back to the chart here. Let's get back here to the, whoops, wrong one. I was just listening to the Chico crypto update where he was saying that he was wrong. I don't think he was totally wrong, because it's really based on the probabilities. And when we had that news, we had the news pump, which we can still see that big fat green candle. And we talked about the possibility of this news pump failing, but that it was possible that we could jump up to the purple dash line because we were above that 50 EMA. And when we look at the one-day chart, we'll see what happened as we had wicked out and touched it and came back down. But now we see that the stochastic is riding high up here in the overbought section. And it looked like we had a definite crossover, but then we came back up bullish. So that 60% scenario did play out. And now, where do we go from here? Well, we can see that the oscillators are still moving up here on the MACD, even though we're printing a light green bar on the histogram, which says that this is receding a little bit, but the oscillators are still divergent and moving up. So that kind of tells me that with these oscillators kind of curling over, we see the blue fast line is kind of curling over just a little bit. It could be that we see a crossover here in the next 24 to 48 hours, but for now we're still moving up. Now, jumping back to, we are on the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour chart, let's kind of expand this top part just a little bit so we can get a little closer view. We have these couple little candles here, two small candles where it looks like Bitcoin is taking a breather, and now we're at another decision point. So where does it go from here? Right now, based on this 4 hour chart, it's looking like it's a 50-50 where we're above the purple dashed line. So we could move up from there. If we take a breather and consolidate for a minute, it could move up. But we see that we have no volume here on the VPVR. There's not a lot of volume at these price points above 24,000. And so that means that it could be very well that we are snatched back down to the bulk of the VPVR volume that comes from this cluster and this massive cluster here that would possibly take us back down to the point of control price, which is the most popular, heavily weighted average price that brings the most trading volume. So just looking at this chart, I would say 50-50 from this point. Now, if we jump to the one-day chart, we can get a little bit more information because while the stochastic looks like it's at a clear peak, we could be in for another cycle down or bounce around and stay up here in the overbought territory. What could bring us back down? Well, we had the news pump that got us up here. We made it up and we're stuck at the purple dashed line. So when we move to the one-day chart, we can see what the possibilities are of consolidating above the purple dash line. And what we can see here is that there is the big slip zone that is in between the purple dash line and the black dash line. Here's the slip zone right here where there's not a lot of volume. In other words, not a lot of trading volume happens in between these two lines. And that means one of two things will happen. We either get snatched all the way up to the black dash line, or we get snatched back down to the point of control price. What is the stochastic oscillator telling us downstairs in this zone right here? Well, right now we are in the overbought zone, but we are also looking at a stochastic that is clearly crossed over right here. We see the crossover, and there's a steep azimuth heading upwards. So there's the possibility that this will play out and we could come back up into the overbought zone, which could push us up to the black dashed line. But the MACD is giving a little bit of conflicting evidence here. One of two things is going on. First of all, we see that the histogram is printing a dark green bar right there. And we see that the fast line, the blue line, is now pointing back upwards like this, as it was looking like the crossover that we were talking about before, but now it's bounced back off. We did say that there was a possibility it could glance off of the slow line, the orange one, and head back up. So the oscillator is saying, hey, we might be moving back up. Now, how far will it go? I don't know. We do have the peak here, and we had a lower peak here, and this new peak has already eclipsed the previous peak. So momentum could take us upward. And it kind of looks like if you add up the evidence from the stochastic and the MACD, it's kind of telling me that price wants to go back up to the black dashed line. So I would have to say that maybe it's a 60-40, where 60% chance that we continue upward, 40% chance that we reverse. What can cause a reversal? Well, it could be negative news. On the next reports that are coming from the feds and from our lovely politicians about the economy, if we report that we are in recession, then we could peak out and we could head back down to the point of control price. But if what we're hearing happens, that we are skipping the recession, and if the feds print ourselves out of this situation, which is very possible because we know that they're in a position where they have the propensity to print fake money that doesn't exist and pour more dollars into the market, that could cause us to move up to the black line. Now, does that mean clear skies above? I don't know, because this bear market is certainly not over yet. Now, when we jump out and look to the 1 week chart, we can kind of get some idea of where we are overall in the big picture. Let me scrunch this down here. And this is very clear as we see this upward movement to the purple dashed line and the stochastic that appears to be coming out of the oversold zone with a clear azimuth that is pointing upwards, like it wants to come back into the purple area. And we also have an impending crossover right here on the MACD. We had a peak, and now we have a low point where we're really down low at the negative 4,000 level. And both the oscillator and the histogram look like they're ready for a reversal. So if these red bars, which are now light red, which says the momentum is going in this direction, if we cross over, we could play out another move up. But how far up does it take us? Well, it could at least bring us back to the black dash line. And that's a big one. That's all the way upstairs at 30,000. Now, if this happens too quickly before the bear market is done, then we have a possibility of a rejection at the black dash line, which would take us back down to either the purple or maybe the red. And that could be the bottom. And just like I mentioned before, my thoughts about returning all the way back down to the point of control price at, say, 10 or 11,000, or hitting this cluster here at around 14,000 or even 17,000, those are less likely. I'm thinking that the least likely is a return to this 10,000. All of the gloomy predictions about 10,000 happening, I'm thinking the probability is very low. Probability is next lowest about returning to the 14,000 cluster here. And the worst case scenario that I've got to think in my mind now is this 17,000 cluster, if that even happens. With the death cross happening on the 3-day chart that occurred after this big dip here, usually in the past, when we see a death cross, the low point is already in. The bottom is already in. That's what's happened historically, but that doesn't mean that it has to repeat itself. History often repeats, but it is not a guarantee. So based on history, we could say that, hey, the bottom is somewhere in this zone right here, and that once the bear market is over, we might start the bull trend from that point. So in my mind, I'm thinking that once we have the final correction, my strategy is to load up and double down on all the alts, because they are going to take the biggest beating. When Bitcoin goes down a little bit, the alts will suffer. And we already see that most alts are not moving up as powerfully as Bitcoin is in this bounce. So that says that whatever correction we get on BTC, it's going to be a lot more blood in the streets for the alts, and could be the opportunity to double down and load up, which is what I will do, because my holdings are primarily in alts. not a whole lot in Bitcoin. But for those of you that are holding Bitcoin, this is looking pretty good. So if you've been consolidating in this entire area after we had that big capitulation event right here, if you've been consolidating down around here, you might end up looking like a pretty smart investor, because we could move up from there. Now, when does that happen? Well, August is going to be a long month, and there's still a lot of possible negative news events that could cause that final correction. And we have to take into account that a correction will happen no matter what. Even if we've already bounced off of the bottom, we're going to have one more correction. And the severity depends on what happens with the rest of the things that are looming on the horizon, like legislation to regulate crypto, with the SEC calling altcoins securities, and also what happens with Tether. Now, if they ever catch Tether with their pants down and expose the fact that Tether is not backed one-to-one with the $1 peg, we could have a black swan event. But with the government printing money and with their desire to see the country move away from a possible recession, they might leave Tether alone. And let's be real. The Tether fiasco, scam, whatever they're doing, it's necessary for us to plow out of this thing and hit new all-time highs and have another ridiculous bull market season. Now, if they expose Tether, that's going to put the next huge bull run in jeopardy. So we'll have to wait and see what the government decides if they want to expose the Tether situation, which there is a lot of crooked things going on with Tether. We must take that into consideration. If they don't go after Tether, it's going to be blue skies ahead. And once we get through August, we can look for a reversal and the start of the bull market, the next bull market, somewhere in September. I'm thinking mid to late September, early October, things will start to trend up. So that's what it's looking like right now. Now let's end this and just jump to the 1 hour chart. Let's reset this. ETH, by the way, look at what ETH is doing. It's just looking completely bullish. We have a bullish cross here on the stochastic, and we're taking out a lot of previous high points. Look at all the highs that ETH has taken out during this time period. This is phenomenal. All of this consolidation here, every one of these highs have just been taken out by this surge. So Ethereum is looking the best out of all of the alts. Why? It's because of ETH 2.0, where we see a lot of people that are speculating on the success of ETH, but we do have a crossover here, and this is a bearish cross, and there will be a correction. Now, let's clear that out and just jump to Bitcoin on the 1 hour, and then we're all done. So here we see a little bit of correction, and we could have some consolidation happening around the purple line. We have a crossover here on the stochastic, and everything will hinge on what happens with this oscillator as we move down and come back up. What is going to be the corresponding price when we hit a dip, if we hit a dip? Because we can also see the stochastic do something like this, where we bounce around and just stay up here. Do you see this cluster where we stayed above and kept correcting and coming back up and bouncing off of that 80 line? It could happen again over here. So this is also a 50-50 where we could consolidate along this purple line and gather the momentum that we need to shoot back up to that black line. In fact, let's just leave this 4 hour chart as we end. And here we are with this peak stochastic looking very healthy, scrunching this down so we can see where that black dash line is. There it is right up above. Let's get a lot of price history in here so we can look at the VPVR, volume profile visible range. And now we see it. Will this cluster up here have the power to snatch price up? It sure can. It's way up there, and the point of control is closer to price, but it's possible that if we can get the momentum, we could get catapulted up to that black dash line. At that point, we'll have to have some kind of correction. Where we correct to is anybody's bet, but it could be the purple dash line and then vault upwards from that point. So that's about all I've got for now. And let me pull up some other super thanks that I want to shout out. We had Jai today with the $10 super thanks, and Carl, thank you very much. And then before that, Carl on the 5th of July with a super thanks of $10. We had Super Rush with a super thanks of $10. And Sergio, I forgot about him, back on the 10th of June. And Nima with the $14.99 super chat. Thank you very much for the continued support. And like I said, I'll keep it up and put in the work and do my due diligence and show you my thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll keep the updates coming. So that's about all I've got, and I would love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Pro channel. Glad to have you all. I appreciate you, and this is an exciting time, and I will keep you posted and have another update once we see how this scenario plays out. We'll see you next time. This is Carlton, and I am out.